Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Timberborn, Neo Olympus. And as you can see, Neo Olympus looks a lot different than the last time you saw it. And that's because I was trying a new method where I pretty much just played the game. I just turned my mic off, played the game, and allowed myself to focus on what I needed to do, because sometimes I slow down because I'm trying to explain what I'm doing. So now we'll dive into the 12 plus hours of gameplay to get Olympus to where it is now. And I'll be going through systematically and trying to explain the methods to get to where we are. So over this gameplay period, there was two major goals that I was looking at. One was creating and finishing our bad water diversion system for the main basin that our city sits over. So a lot of this is actually in preparation for creating our basically sewage line that is going to carry bad water out while when a bad tide happens, and allow us to not have any bad water coming into our basin anymore. So that'll always be clear water, because I want it sitting on top of a clear lake. The other thing was preparation for making the industrial district on its own, finishing it. Because the thing is, the industrial district still needs to be self-sufficient in respect of it still needs to be able to provide some of its own resources. It still needs to be able to provide some of its own resources. So I can't rely on wood coming only from the other part of the district, just because it's a lot of wood to be trying to haul back and forth, especially when the industrial district is going to be completely run by bots. So those were the two focuses, trying to make the industrial district and make it self-sufficient, which to do that, I had to start putting in more land to actually put trees and plant trees. So bots over here would be able to take care of it, which is what you were looking at there. So we also had to look at rearranging how everything is set up. So that meant creating new storage, expanding these platforms out. And I know this is a resource intensive method, but this is the vision. The vision is to actually build on top of these basins and still be able to use them. They're natural sources. But one thing led to another, and there was a whole lot of work that just needed to be put in to actually get this to where I needed it to be. So as I was working, I was setting up all of my how everything was going to be and how I was going to get to everything and how my platforms were going to be, so I could build out more, make everything bigger and expand out. I came to a conclusion where sometimes I was going a little bit too far in my preparation, and I just had to go back and revise certain things, like here making the bridge, because I needed a way to extend out and get across to make my sewer line. So as per usual Coach LB fashion, I pre-planned too far ahead when there was a simpler option, and that had to do with building bridges out to actually be able to dig out the pathway for my sewer line. And yeah, building bridges way more resource efficient, and was good. Worked out much better. time-wise, because it gave me a way to plant lay all the dynamite in and blow up everything for the line without having to actually build out all of the platforms that I was trying to, which also cost me less resources. So it was a much, much better method than what I had been doing. And, all it took was some time to actually just think about what I was doing and see it. I mean, I'm not a professional city planner or anything. I just am a strength and conditioning coach. So city planning is not my forte. I just like playing games where I have to think and think around problems. Of course, this became resource intensive on dynamite and extract, because I'm literally blowing up an entire huge basin and getting down to the lowest level so I can put a pipe underneath. And this created its own supply issues and supply and demand issues, but it was necessary to get done what I needed to get done. Another thing is, while this was going on, I was doing other things concurrently and expansion and everything, but right now I'm just focusing on this bad water diversion system that I decided to put in, and I'm showing you how I got there. So if you play this map, you can try this. It's quite expensive, but I think it works pretty well when you get to the end of it. So there was a lot of laying of dynamite and blowing things up. So here you see some of the expansion that I started doing to be able to plant more trees. More on that later. I also came to a conclusion that I probably should have just leveled everything down to the same level and then started laying the dynamite so I could be easier, because it'd all be on the same level and in a row. And so it would make it more efficient for me to actually lay it down to blow it up. Of course, I came to that conclusion a little bit later than I probably needed to. Once I was down to the lowest level in the basin, and I made it sure by checking to make sure that I couldn't dynamite any lower, it was time to actually put in our new pipe. And going from one side to the other, I just needed to make sure that I was able to place it all the way down and get the impermeable floors. I wanted to say impermeable barriers, but the impermeable floors on top of it. So that way it would be an actual pipe. It wouldn't leak its way out, and no chance of any of the bad water inside the basin backflowing into the opposite direction. With all that set up, I was double checking my sluices on this side and making sure. As you can see, I have bridges and built bridges out so they would actually be able to finish the diversion system underneath the where the city is going to be. So I used bridges to finish all that, and it's been being put in. So then I had to move on to the front side of it, where the bad water is going to go to. And it's going to go from a 3-wide to a single pipe. And I was very zealous, maybe overzealous with the way I was designing all of this. because as you can see, the splash up from the bad water, because it's during a bad tide that I decided to do this, I could have contaminated some beavers pretty quickly. Yeah. But as you can see, I made it down, and you can see where the pipe was going to start coming in. If you notice, there is a height differential. So the actual pipe that is flowing from the diversion system inside the basin is one higher than the actual sewer pipe going down. And I just left the difference to flow just because it was actually easier to do it where it just went down, and then I just make sure everything was sealed properly. And so I don't know if there's actually any real benefit to the way I did it, but it just was easier for me to do. So it was something that was easier for me to look after and do. And so I decided to do it that way. And I continued to, while they were building the pipe, dynamite out the other areas that need to be dynamited out, because this whole thing's got to connect. So we continued putting dynamite in and getting this down to the level so I'd be able to connect this pipe to our sewer pipe that is already running through the basin. And this was just taking the time it took to place the dynamite and everything. And then I did something a little silly. As you can see, we're in the middle of bad tide, and I just connected an open pipe in a reservoir to my pool. Luckily, we're in a bad tide, so the water in the reservoir was already contaminated. But I kind of flooded some of my storage, and I ended up flooding one of my hauling posts, and I just made a whole huge mess. I had to disconnect the path to try and keep the beavers from going through there, since there was other ways to get around. But yeah, I made a whole mess. And I was going to pay dearly for it later, but I also decided, hey, maybe I should start rushing on sealing this up too, because it's the shenanigans that just have happened, because we all love shenanigans. So the purpose of the channel that I sat there and had them build was actually just to direct the flow of bad water into the basin without having it spread along the ground towards everything else. So maybe I could get my hauling post back up and running. But by this time, I hadn't realized that I think it was somewhere upwards of 28 of my beavers were unwell. So of course, I had to mitigate the situation by putting in some decontamination pods, because feeling unwell is eventually going to lead to them being contaminated. That's just the way it is. So might as well mitigate as much of the downtime for beavers as I can by having them put in. And finally had gotten it closed, so it wasn't leading out. And then, of course, I realized, oh yeah, the power is at the back of this one, not the front. So, just little things, but making sure to get these decontamination pods built and get them powered and running so I could start decontaminating as beavers, because they're going to get contaminated. So, of course, on my other end, I had to finish the pipe and then start building up so I could build my exit off the map. So this underwater sewer pipe is the first one that I'm creating, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be more since there's more water sources on the map, and I have to make bad water diversion systems for those. And it's just made to carry the bad water during a bad tide straight off the map. Since we have our special equipment capping the bad water sources on the map, we'll always have bad water. So we'll never need to worry about getting bad water from the bad tides. We don't need it. So therefore, it can just be shuttled off the map. And by this point in time, our decontamination pods were in full swing. Our decontaminated beavers numbers was coming down because we were only just above 20 at that point, and I think I was almost at 20, or I was close to 30. So with that, getting our stairwell put into place, since that is where our district crossing is going to be, because I wanted it to be kind of centralized, and that was just a really good place, in my own opinion, to put it, to get up to it. So basically, this is where our district crossing is going to be. So I started setting it up how I wanted it to look and how I was going to try and decorate it to make it feel special, like when you're crossing into the other district. So that was one of the reasons why I was working on that. And of course, like I said, I figured that out at that one point, and as quickly as I figured it out, I forgot it about getting everything down to the same level and then laying dynamite, because it would be a little bit faster. And I think it's just because I was maybe trying to get the line at one point, but yeah. So I just took a whole lot of time blowing all of this up to get down to the deepest part that I needed to. So I spent quite a bit of time just trying to look and see where we were, because I started thinking about it. I was like, oh, well, maybe if I just take it all down to the same level, it would work out better. But then I also kind of was like, how far am I from the bottom? Because some of them needed to go to the bottom, and some of them were really close. So I figured I would at least get those taken care of and then just try and level the rest of it at the same point in time. So yeah, there was a lot more dynamite shenanigans going on, because yeah, why not? But it became much easier as I got them all down to the same level, where all I had to do really quickly was blow them up to get them to the same level, and then I could place the dynamite in a long form chain and watch it all go boom. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but I bound the the actual dynamite explosive charge release set it all the go boom button to the B key on my keyboard. B for boom. I'm sure that seems pretty lame, but I was surprised at how many people on Reddit said that they did the same thing. Another reason why I wanted that stairwell there is because I'd never be able to put, in this update at least, put dirt on top of those platforms, so there's no way to use that soil for anything for fertility. So might as well just put a stairwell there. And with the stairwell completed, all I had to do was finish out the rest of the dynamite for this pipe. So I am starting to work my way backwards with laying the pipe in, since that side was already finished, and I'm putting down the dynamite. But I also decided to do this a different way, so not cause another catastrophe of contaminated beavers. So plus I needed a way to get back and forth, so I had to go and create the pipe for pretty much the entirety of the length, and then place a platform and levees all the way up, so I'd actually have a way to get to the other side, because I believe at this point I didn't have another way of connecting the path. Well, I mean, I did, but when I went to go blow up the part in the middle of it, I wouldn't. And I really needed to continue on working on building the platforms to expand it out. But as you can see, as soon as I hit that last one, it was golden. It started flowing out. And then I have one continuous sewer pipe. With the one continuous pipe finished, bad water diversion system complete. Bad water gets diverted from during a bad tide into this long continuous sewer pipe from here, and I have the sluices set to different levels of contamination to get a pumping effect when one decides that it's closed. It's just something weird with the way the mechanics work. So let's backtrack a little bit and talk about the expansion that I was trying to do for creating this district. Like I said, I needed to expand everything out to be able to have everything set up the way I wanted it to. And one thing is, for this district to be self-sufficient, is I needed land to grow trees. So since I was stacked on dirt, I figured the best way would be to expand where my dirt is and put in places. Now I was placing dirt in inside the basin because I was filling some of it in, because I don't need that thing to be 100%. I don't need it to be as big as it is, but with it being as big as it is, I had room. But one of the things I needed to do was I needed to figure out what I was going to do for trees. And I decided, looked at the actual size of this basin here, and I was like, this is gigantic. I don't need this, because even if I do get it to hold excess water during a good cycle, it's still humongous, and I probably won't be pumping water out of that anytime soon. Yeah, famous last words. But I decided, I was like, hey, well, let's expand this out. They've got plenty of dirt and I've got plenty of room. I can just expand this out and put trees over on this side. So to do that, I needed to fill up the land. I need to fill it in and make sure that there's nothing down here that I need to get. So we're going to fill all this in so it'll give us room to grow trees. And I know you're probably thinking, oh, well, there's bad water right behind it. Won't that contaminate the ground for the trees? Yeah, it would. But I also put contamination barriers where the power wheel are. I'm going to put contamination barriers along the inside of that. So therefore, never have to worry about the ground being contaminated. I also needed to be able to, since this is the industrial district, I needed a way to be able to do logs, do planks and gears, and be able to keep up with the rest of the colony, because I want all of my production of good manufactured goods to be taken care of by bots to create less injuries, and I need it all over here. So I had to expand all of that, and in doing so, I realized that I started undertaking a massive terraforming project. All of this is while I was working on the bad water diversion system. So there's a massive undertaking going on of things happening, and wood production. I also noticed, I also made it so all of this would be powered by our permanent power fixture facility, because I didn't want to be burning trees especially in the industrial district. I don't want to be burning trees using engines anymore. It's very inefficient. So I also ended up creating more space for more storage, for more things, because all of those factories are on top of storage. But I also knew that wasn't going to be enough storage, so I started creating storage. And these storages over here by the bot factory specifically are going to be where hold the gigantic water tanks on top of them. So it was a design idea that I had, trying to use the space that I could that way. Now that I've seen some other things, I realize that you can put tanks on top of tanks as long as you have platforms to go on top of the tanks. You can actually stack tanks like a water tower now, which I find fascinating to do, and I think that's a pretty cool looking idea. But it's not something I was extremely worried about at this moment in time, because I really needed to get a way to make sure I was getting enough bad water, because I started to realize, because of all of the explosives and everything that was going on, my bad water collection was actually getting down lower. So here I decided to make sure to get in as much of the land as possible, as quick as possible, so I could actually get the water pumping to turn all of this green, so I could actually start planting trees and then cutting them down, because it would be much easier. Because with all the engines I had running, I mean, that's a source of logs being gobbled up. So there was a lot of expansion going on at this point in time. And this is all while I was working on the bad water diversion system. And this is all just expansion to allow this industrial district, the Olympus Industrial Park, to take form and be self-sufficient. And before I knew it, I had fertile land over here, so they could start planting trees. And therefore, my beavers would have, or my bots, because all of this is supposed to be bots, but they would be able to plant trees and take down trees and have lumber to carry right over to the storage and the facilities, so I wouldn't have to worry about it coming halfway across the map. And this actually shows you a moment in time where I was working on that concurrently while I was working on the water diversion system. So all of this stuff was getting done at the same time, which is one of the reasons why I decided to film and record and voice over this way. It's because it allowed me the opportunity to do a lot of things, but focus while I'm editing the video on specific things that I did. Like over here, I'm actually expanding the farmland because, I mean, everything is working out, but I still need more farmland. So I'm going to still need more farmland because there's a lot of crops I have not gotten into. So one of the things I was thinking maybe doing is taking some of those crops, and after I get enough land in the industrial park, having those crops grown there, like canola. I could probably have canola grown in my industrial park because the canola oil is used. Another thing I had to do is rework how my access into my excavator worked, because I want to run power across the map, and my power plant over here, I need it to be able to run power out to the rest of the map. And the best, easiest way would be able to get down from the excavator and have power go down and into that basin and across, because I will have, I may have some things inside that basin that are going to require power. The basic idea I'm working with is I'm trying to preempt things instead of being reactionary to them, because reactionary sometimes requires massive changes that are harder to do. I sat here staring at that mine and this water basin for a long time because I want to make another underwater mine, just like the one that I made over there. The only thing is that I know that with contaminated water and everything, it's dangerous for beavers to try and build that. So I also want to make sure that it's only accessible by the district. So, I mean, it's pre-planning certain things that I've been doing and trying to figure it out. But one of the things that I realize is, like, I need more storage, I need more space to work with. So I decided that I was going to create another set of platforms. And so instead of using regular wooden platforms, I decided, oh, I have all this extra dirt. Why don't I just use dirt to start off at least some part of these platforms to build out? Because, hey, might save a little bit of wood. Was it the best idea? I'm not sure yet. It did save some wood. But at the time, I'm not running out of resources, but I'm still trying to be resource efficient with everything I'm doing. But here I needed to build some more areas because there's some factories that I need to put over here, and I need more places for storage. So why not just go straight out and everything? But that basin is so huge, I started to realize, I'm like, I don't really need it to be this big. I'll be able to fill it all in at some point. And yet again, at this point, in the future, I'm going to realize that I overbuilt this platform because it's bigger than what I needed, but it'll serve its purpose, and I can always find more room. But one thing that I did realize over here is that I actually was running low on pine resin because I had upped my production for treated planks, because I needed treated planks for the mine to run efficiently. So I took part of my area that I had oak in, and I turned it into a pine forest, and I took away the cutting thing so I could actually grow more pine trees, because originally my pines in the resin, I had enough, but as I've increased my production, I didn't increase my resin collection accordingly. So as you can see, we've got that nice giant giant storage for bad water. So I'm systematically trying to get bigger storages for the liquids, so I can get rid of the smaller ones that are scattered about this area, and it would be better for the entire district to have them. With all that being said, I'm gonna wrap this one up here. We did a lot in this video. I got the bad water diversion system for our main basin completed, and we started expansion to make our industrial area self-sufficient. So this was a lot of work, and I hope you enjoyed this. The next video will be more on the industrial area and how I got it to where it is now. So I want to thank you for stopping by and watching. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.